Some of you may be familiar with the musical Wicked. It's a very successful musical on Broadway. I think it debuted in 2003 and has stayed on the regular circuit ever since, even to this day. It's very popular. It's written as a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. Sort of, how did we get to the Wicked Witch is sort of the kind of the storyline. But at the very beginning of the musical, there's this figure. His name is, I think it's Fiyero, something like that. He has a song that he sings. He's trying to sort of give a little message to the characters and to the audience. It's called Dancing Through Life. Dancing Through Life. And he sings this. He says, why study strife when you can live the unexamined life? Dancing through life. Life is painless for the brainless. It's this sort of famous song that he sings. It's sort of a repackaging, right, of a very ancient philosophy, a very ancient sort of worldview that's very common today. I suppose by its official term, you would call it Epicureanism, after the famous Greek philosopher Epicurus, who said, "Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die." But you see this sort of philosophy of life up and down the ages. Life is short, so you got to make the most of it, and don't care about all these rules and standards and other things. Just enjoy life while you can is sort of the message of this philosophy. You see it up and down the ages, right? Nothing is new under the sun. Even in the Middle Ages, they had a version of it. There's this drinking song called Gaudiamus Igitur. Gaudiamus Igitur, juvenestum sumus. Not all Latin is prayed in church, I guess. It means, let us drink, therefore, then rejoice, for we are young. So even in the Middle Ages, you had a similar sort of thing. I think today, the kids say YOLO. You only live once, right? That's sort of the modern version of it, YOLO. And this is a very common sort of worldview that you see out there, this Epicurean worldview. It's very common. It's one of the very common responses to living in a broken world. But it's the opposite of the gospel, right? It's the opposite of the gospel. And it's the opposite of today's gospel specifically. In a certain sense, in today's gospel, Jesus is telling us to live the examined life, right? To not be afraid to look within at the darkness of the heart and allowing God to heal, to transform, to renew, and to change. I think some people read these passages with the Pharisees as if Jesus was against the rules, or antinomian, or against the law. It's the opposite of that almost. He intensifies the law, right? He intensifies it. He's not just satisfied with external observance, but he desires our inward allegiance, alliance, and maybe even more than that, right? Our inward fire of love, in which all these dark things are cleansed away, that he speaks of. It's like he's checking the bet of the Pharisees and raising it 50. Right? He's intensifying the law by sharing all these things that come from the heart, these dark things. Whenever the deacon reads this passage, the whole church gets quiet as he reads off this little litany of examination from Jesus. All these dark things: arrogance, folly, blasphemy, unchastity, envy, right? All these things. I think the reason why the church gets quiet is these are real. Right? These are real struggles of the human heart. We're all works in progress. We're moving right towards the fullness of freedom in Christ, but We're not there yet. And even though we don't get there till heaven, it's still worth getting there as far as we can, because that's where our happiness lies and our peace. To be free of these obstacles, to be free of these dark things lurking in the human heart. And so that's what Jesus desires for us. He desires freedom. And so he names these things, not to shame, not to put us down, not to make us feel embarrassed, but to bring them to the light so they can be healed and we can be rescued by the power of his truth and his love. Many of these things are honest battles that many people face. Everyone probably faces one of these challenges that he lists off. It's part of our work in progress. And so what do we do with these? What do we do with these dark places of the heart? What do we do with them? There's all kinds of responses that people give. Maybe you encounter these in your family and friends, co-workers, yourself, all of the above. What do you do? How do you help people where it matters? I often see three ways that people try to attempt to offer help to the darkness of the human heart. Two of them are unhelpful, and one of them is very helpful. The first one that's unhelpful is to compromise, To say, that's not a big deal. You don't have to worry about that issue. It's okay. Live and let live. We hear this one all the time. In an effort to alleviate the burden of the moral struggle, sometimes people just want to compromise and excuse, and anything goes. That's supremely unhelpful. It keeps people locked in their sin. There's a second version that's also unhelpful, and that's just throwing the book at somebody. Just telling them, don't you know that's wrong? Don't you know that's one of the 10 Commandments you're breaking there? I can't believe you did that. Why don't you just behave? Ever heard that one? That's unhelpful too, right? People know many times what's right and wrong. They have a conscience, right? What St. John Henry Newman called the aboriginal vicar of Christ, right? The voice of God speaking in their minds. A lot of times they know that something's wrong. That's why they're discouraged, right? They're trying. It doesn't help just to inform them one more time that what they're doing is wrong. That's kind of a given. That's why they're seeking advice or help or support. I think there's a third way that really helps, and that is to take time to listen to their struggle, their burden, their difficulty, the things they're carrying. It's unbelievable what that does, to listen and then to shed the light of hope. To speak the hope of the gospel into their darkness. That with God all things are possible, that you're here for them, that growth is possible even though a growth edge might be pretty hard, that these things can be overcome. That is possible. I remember hearing a story of a young novice with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. He was visiting one of their soup kitchens, and he sat down at a table, and he was meaning just to kind of do some drive-by hellos, and he asked one of the men at the homeless shelter how he was doing over lunch. It took him an hour to respond. He listened to him for an hour. That's a beautiful, beautiful witness. But that's what'll change people, right? Aristotle once asked, what does a bad man need? Does he need a kick in the pants? Does he need policy? He said, no, he needs a friend. He needs a friend. That's what a bad man needs, is a friend. So that's how we can help, right? That's how we can help others and ourselves grow. It's beautiful. It happens. We see it happen all the time. Just think of all this. Friendships, groups, support groups. Or think of AA, SA, all these great support groups. They're powerful because people listen to each other. You know, Paul Tillich, he was a great theologian of the 20th century. He said, the first duty of love is to listen. The first duty of love is to listen. He died in 1965, and St. John Paul II would take up a lot of that in his own writings, those same themes. That one of the first duties of love is to listen, to hear, and then to give hope, to give hope. I love St. John Paul II. I've been rereading some of his philosophical works that he wrote as a priest while he was a professor in Lublin, Poland, before he became a cardinal and then Holy Father. He's got some great works, Love and Responsibility, The Acting Person. So in The Acting Person, he's got this great line, John Paul II. He says, one of the great tasks of education and morality is to bring the subconscious into the conscious. That's a philosophical phrase, isn't it? But that's what Jesus is doing in the gospel today, right? What's lurking in darkness, to bring it to the light, to bring it to the light. John Paul gives that like one of the prime motives for morality and education. I love the movie The Sixth Sense. Maybe you've seen that. Bruce Willis plays a psychologist who's trying to help a young kid who has this gift to see into the past. Wherever he goes, whatever building or location, he sees whoever died there. And he's freaked out by it. This little kid is freaked out because he sees dead people wherever they died, in buildings, in his school, and around town. And so the turning point of the movie, when he's scared of all these dead people, is Bruce Willis asks him, have you asked them what they want? Have you asked them what they want? That's the turning point of the movie. A similar thing here with these dark things of the heart. Behind every twisted desire is a holy desire that's been just tweaked a bit. There's something good there. And that's part of this gift of sort of opening your heart as well. You might discover the good thing you're looking for. Not to shame it, not to judge it, not to be hard on yourself, but you might find the good thing you're actually looking for. And whatever it is. And reorientate that so the heart can find what it's looking for. Someone should tell Bono and you too. We found it, right, in the Lord. We found what we're looking for. So that's, I think, the great task of our ongoing conversion, is to not be afraid of the interior battle. This is where the real drama of life is. It's not in curating our world and our lives to be perfect versions of whatever. It's not just external observance of rules that make us feel safe, although those tell us, certain things that are important. But it's looking deep within and not being afraid of the interior battle. One thing I love here is how long the confession lines are. I love it. I love hearing confessions. It's beautiful. So many people come to confession here. It's such a great sign that so many are taking the struggle seriously, seeking God's help, bringing things to the light for His healing, His peace, His grace. So this is our invitation, I think, from the Lord today. Are we just going to go with the flow? Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Dancing through life. I'm not sure life is painless for the brainless. Or are we going to live our discipleship, our Christian life with intentionality, trusting the goodness of God to heal, to bring new life, and to deliver us from the darkness within? Let us have that courage to live the examined life so that we might walk closer with the Lord, be healed of what's holding us back, and flourish in our hearts and minds with the love and the truth of God.